everyone. Welcome to our Tuesday Times Roundtable discussion. Very glad to see you here today. And we are very honored to have with us Dionis Adorno, who is a higher education administration graduate student here at FIU. He's currently doing his practicum for NASPA's LEAD initiative and works at the FIU College of Medicine, where he serves as a primary care assistant. And I hope you'll tell us more about NASPA and the LEAD initiative as part of your presentation today.
Yes.
But, or as part of the discussion that you're going to lead us in. Okay. Please join me in welcoming Dionis. Thank you.
Okay, let me just fix this real quick. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone had a chance to read the article. So just to go over the agenda for today, with the introduction that just happened, we're going to do a quick icebreaker, look at a video. We're going to debrief the video, then do the main activity where I'm going to ask you a series of questions and just get all your feedback. Nobody has a wrong answer. It's just about what you've experienced and just engaging in an honest discussion about what you've experienced in higher education. And then we'll have some closing remarks, and that's it. Easy squeezy. So first, we're going to do a bingo game. So I'm going to hand these out. Oh. Yes, please. You guys all have pens. If you don't have a pen, please let me know. So what you do with the bingo game is just to find people who relate to any of these squares, and they just have to initial their name in the box that relates to them. One person can only sign into your square, into your bingo game twice. So if I was signing into your bingo card, I can only initial twice in two different boxes, max, okay? So if everyone's supposed to stand up and move around, get to know each other, that'd be great. Hi. Oh. Our bingo winner, here's your prize. Let's give her a round of applause, please. She was the first one to get bingo. Thank you for everyone engaging and playing along. Okay, so let's talk about the bingo game. Why do you guys think we did the bingo game?
Get to know each other.
Get to know each other. Okay. What else?
We're in a civic recession.
The who?
We're in a civic recession.
Okay. Do you know what a civic recession is?
Sort of.
What do you think it is?
A lack of people doing community service or being active in the government.
Okay. Anyone else want to add to that or agree with it? Everyone agrees with that statement then?
What was it?
Want to say it again, please?
Yeah, there's a lack of community service and lack of working with your government.
But what does has to do with the bingo?
He was explaining what a civic recession was.
It has to do with the bingo because I think a lot of times when I was asking the civic questions, everyone said no.
Oh.
Okay.
Wow.
So no one, what would you say again? Sorry. The no, what did you just say again about the no?
Well, like the question, let's see, I asked a lot, do you read the New York Times?
Uh-huh.
I said no.
No. Were there other no's that everybody got when they were asking around?
Have you ever been elected to a position?
Into a position? There was a no? There was a lot of no's. Anyone else find a lot of no's when they were asking around?
I found a variety of things. Definitely some yeses, some nos, but not all yeses.
Okay. So going back to his statement about what a civic recession is, do you guys believe that we're in a civic recession? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes? Why?
We don't get involved. Like in this county, nobody votes.
Okay. So voting is down. What else? You think, what else besides voting goes into a civic recession?
This event should be full, right?
It should be.
I don't think it is. I think the whole that question people choose what they get involved with, because even though we're not doing like things like voting or sitting here, there are still people protesting. Like in Arizona right now, it's on the news. There's still people getting involved in the government because of what they feel they have to do, or because they want to protect their rights, or they want to infringe on someone else's rights.
Okay. So you think we're not in a civic recession then because there's still protests going on?
I think it's selective.
Selective?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes?
I think maybe it's part of being a little bit older, thinking about like what things were like when I was growing up, right, in the 70s. So it seemed like I saw a lot more involvement, even in when I was in school. Like my teachers were involved in things, or would take us on field trips, or have us involved in debates and things like that in school. And I don't know if there's as much room for that in the curriculum now.
Okay.
So it feels like a time thing, and then also I thought it was very interesting what you said, that it's also a place thing, right? Because I've lived in other parts of the country where volunteerism, having pancake breakfast at the firehouse to raise funds, things where people get together and raise money or volunteer together seem more more prevalent in those other areas than it did necessarily in this particular city. But
So do you think we're in a civic recession right now, in your opinion?
I think things ebb and flow, and I think that there are some natural aspects of our demographic and our geography that make it hard here in Miami. So I don't know if I want to say that we're in a recession in Miami. I think we're just in a place where we can grow.
Okay.
There's a lot of room to grow.
Yes.
I'm not ready to say either we are in a recession or not.
Okay.
Recession. However, one thing I know here, which I did not grow up with, I went to a Catholic school, and we did a lot of different activities to raise money for groups, et cetera, but there was no mandated community service hours for middle and high school students. So that's something, since I've come to Florida, that I've noticed, which I think is, on the one hand, it is putting a lot on young people who already have all kinds of obligations and are busy. However, it is, I think, trying to set a precedent to change the atmosphere and to, kind of bolster, civic activity going forward. So I think that's a positive.
Okay.
I really want to bring attention to the fact that both these ladies mentioned the age when I was growing up, or something like this, and I want to also bring attention to the fact that civic engagement right now, I feel like there's more older people doing it, and I don't mean older as the people are in this room. I mean like over 60, because they have the free time, and right now the majority of the money that is being used for social programs seems to be kind of skewed in their direction anyway. So of course the younger generation is focused on how am I going to get the next plate of food in front of me, and how am I going to pay my car note, my phone bill, et cetera, when the older generation didn't need to worry about that so much. And either way, right now, they're lobbying for themselves, not for us.
Okay. And for some people in the audience, what do you mean by civic engagement? Not everyone might be familiar with that term.
Civic engagement, I guess if I were going to relate it to something like this, it'd be has voted, or does more community service, or just gets more involved politically, and is more likely to be lobbying for themselves or lobbying for a cause that they want to be involved in.
Okay.
Other things as well.
Like how you said about the time and money aspect between generations, that goes into our next question about what are the signs of a civic recession. Besides time and maybe generation gaps, what else do you think might be signs of a civic recession or might lead to it?
Well, financial concerns, when we're in an economic recession. I don't know if you see more or less. Many people have more time on their hands, but they're not really in a position to maybe devote as much time to other activities than maybe looking for a job or something. So, financial, definitely.
Financial.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I think just general kind of disengagement with governance. So, we've kind of, in this country, I think, grown up to think that if the elected officials are involved in the governance and everybody else is not, we get to complain about them. But I think we've really changed that aspect. Our general thinking is really that, well, okay, we elect someone, they're supposed to handle the governance of the country, but I think we've lost a little bit of that connection to, wait a minute, I need to be involved in the democracy of this country. Otherwise, it's not a democracy. So I think some of that is a sign of a civic recession.
Okay. Anyone else? Agree, disagree, want to add?
I think another sign of civic recession is just a lack of knowledge of what's going on in the world. If you're not educated or even take the time to care about global news or even within your own community, then it just shows that maybe you don't care about your own community, you're just really concentrated on yourself. So I think that's also a sign of a civic recession, the lack of knowledge.
I'm also thinking about, in addition to lack of knowledge, sources of knowledge. I think it can be very challenging for folks. I feel like the demands on our time, especially as students, can be so many that where we get information from sometimes isn't always, multiple sources. Maybe it is just watching, the Jon Stewart show, which isn't news, but can feel like news when that's the only time you have all day at 11 o'clock at night to watch this 30 minutes. You feel like, well, then this is where I'm going to get my information from because I have to.
Okay. Anyone else want to add in?
It might also be getting harder because we're continuing to grow in our population. I was just looking, we're 100 million more people in the United States than we were in 1970. And it becomes easier to get disengaged when we feel like there's just so many people and everything is so crowded. I'm just one vote, right? And I don't know what the percentage of eligible voters who actually voted in 1970 versus today. I'm not going to look that up, but I would venture to guess that it's less. So more people, less people engaged, just that feeling of just I'm one of. So maybe that could, and I don't know if there are trends worldwide with that, like as the population grows, but.
Okay, it's back. Okay. So, keep everyone's opinion in your minds, and also your opinion that you may have not shared with everybody. While we watch this video real quick. It's called Fault Lines in Our Democracy. This one? No, it's this one.
The death of democracy is not likely to be an assassination from ambush. It will be a slow extinction from apathy,
Everyone can hear?
indifference,
Awesome.
and undernourishment. Today, the United States faces challenges of historic proportions: a struggling economy, soaring budget deficits, an ever-growing national debt, a healthcare system in crisis, budget-busting energy crisis, an aging infrastructure, global terrorism, and a host of other problems demanding solutions. Americans must respond to these challenges in the way we always do, through the power of our democratic family. Our democracy is only as strong as its citizens. Today, civic participation is strongly related to one's age, education, literacy and numeracy skills, and income. ETS's latest report, Fault Lines in Our Democracy, is a close look at three important aspects of American citizenship: civic knowledge, voting behavior, and civic engagement, and the way these vital pillars are failing as a result of measured trends in today's culture. our system of government is not handed down through the gene pool. The habits of citizenship must be learned. But consider this. Although American history, social studies, and civics-related material are taught in our schools, only about 1/4 of students are proficient in their knowledge of these subjects. Why? Why do just 27% of 4th graders know why we have a Constitution? Why can only 22% of 8th graders tell you what the Supreme Court does? Nobody will ever deprive the American people of the right to vote, except the American people themselves. And the only way they could do this is by not voting. But today, many Americans are doing just that, not voting. ETS looks closely at who's voting, and more importantly, who isn't, and why not. Among the alarming conclusions, we will learn that the nation's young adults who are less educated and have lower incomes are now effectively disenfranchised from the voting process. The most important political office is that of private citizen. ETS's new report uses what is called the Civic Engagement Index to help us measure how various segments of our population vary in their participation in our collective society. The ETS study helps us recognize how volunteerism, voting, and other ways of being involved have a direct relationship to how we view and value our democracy. The ETS report, Fault Lines in Our Democracy, points the way to using education in our schools, homes, and in the media to reverse dangerous trends that are eroding our democracy. For more information about this report, please visit www.ets.org/faultlines.
Okay. Any initial reactions to the video you want to share with the group?
Oh, it was good. I'm happy that organization, they're the ones who make all the GREs.
Mm-hmm.
That
ETS.
$150 went to quality content.
Okay. Anyone else?
I thought it was really interesting the quote that DR said, and some of the quotes that happened within the video, that the only person who can, you make yourself disenfranchised to your own government just by not saying anything at all.
Okay. Okay. Now let's bring it to the reading. Based on what you've seen in the video and also what you've read, what do you believe the role of higher education is? Yes.
I can say that by the way the video wants to frame it, higher education would be what informs the general public about what choices to make politically. So less education, less ideas you might have as to who to choose.
So you feel like higher ed gives you the ideas for like politics and democracy?
Well, it definitely should give you the motivation and intelligence to do your background research on whoever is the next running for, the local office or, going up from there to federal level. And
Okay.
some people I think are educated but just are not interested in voicing their opinions and are, at the same age level category.
Okay. Does everyone agree with what she said? So you're shaking your head? You want to share?
Yeah.
I know.
And another thing, to piggyback off of education,
Mm-hmm.
the video made a lot of mentions about how 4th graders and 8th graders and how education is different, but what I have noticed as being a student
Mm-hmm.
is that certain aspects of American history, once you get to a certain part of the curriculum, they just chop it off. You get up to the Civil War, that's it.
Okay.
Move on to the next grade. And then you get on to the Civil War or Reconstruction, and that's it. Like, there's not a lot of modern history. There's not a lot of information to make someone interested in American history, thus making them interested in politics. And that is equivalent to the civic duty. You know, you have to know about your history to know where you're going.
Okay.
That's what I noticed about the video.
Now, what do you think, like, the passion to get involved in the government and the idea to express, like, these viewpoints happen within the university, within higher education?
With higher education, you can see it through the courses, because compared to elementary, middle school, or high school, you're really restricted on the type of courses that you can take. But when you get to college, you can take one course on the Civil War and then take another course on World War II. Or just expand on your history, or expand on a major that is linked to history, and that just fuels knowledge on American civics.
Okay. So outside of the classroom, are there other places, areas in university you could have this free space to engage in these dialogues? Anyone else?
Higher education also provides opportunity for you to get involved. You know, each university has their own philanthropic events that they do, like Relay for Life, Dance Marathon, which lends itself to volunteerism. And then also, like, they've set up literally departments for you to do service. So Center for Leadership and Service is a department you can really depend on if you're interested, and just creating those relationships across the university.
Okay. Anyone else?
I
Yes.
think sometimes those discussions happen in unstructured, informal ways too, like just wherever people get together. So, you know, in a residence hall, around the lunch table, I don't know, where people are studying. It, you know, a lot of that interaction is just part of being on a college campus, because, you know, people are together, we have a learning mission, people are all here to learn about something. I think it's just a natural place for it to happen.
Okay. Yes.
It seems almost like it's a mental habit, right? So sometimes we can feel subject to the world, like we just have to function and do the best within whatever limits or challenges we face. And then there's a difference of feeling like you're an agent, like the things that go on around you, you have influence over those things and you can shape those things. And we might feel like an agent in our home, but then those concentric circles, as we move out in the world, how much does our agency fade, right? So it used to be with the social sciences, history and things like that in elementary school, that the way we were taught as teachers to teach is you start in kindergarten with students thinking about your home. And what are the things that go on in your home, and how do you act within your home as an agent? Like, do you help to take care of the chores and things? And then in the next grade, you say, well, what is our school? You know, and how am I an agent in my school? And the idea was that through the curriculum, this was from the National Council for the Social Sciences, by the time you graduate from high school, you're involved in these kinds of national, international, and global issues, and you're thinking in the curriculum about how that applies to those things, and you're supposed to grow that sense of agency. The social sciences haven't been part of standardized testing, so there's been a lot of less funding, a lot less time spent in colleges of education preparing teachers to teach them, and so it's just been kind of squeezing off that feeling. And I don't think necessarily that our students come to us feeling like agents. And so we really have to start from that kindergarten, you know, place of where do you have control in your life? Like here in our university, in your dorm, and grow that. Because I don't think necessarily students have come to us with the feeling of being empowered. But I don't know.
Okay. Thank you. Now, going to the article, on the very first line and two, it said, from opportunity, engagement, and confidence, that's the article you read. It begins by stating that the American education system is designed to fail. Do you guys agree with this statement? Why or why not? Now reflect on your own education, wherever that may have been. Do you agree with the statement, with your experience?
Going off of what she mentioned earlier, that the way that they educate the younger children, middle school and high school kids, is by certain levels, and they become disinterested. So before even making it midway through high school, you're not thinking about the government as an entity that cares about you, and you're not paying attention to it anyway. We're not being educated in what is government in the modern sense, at least in the schools that lead up to college. And honestly, without the help of a benefactor that I was so lucky to have, I wouldn't be here either. I probably wouldn't know about college until I was 18 or 19. So I think that the system is perpetuating this issue, especially in socioeconomically disadvantaged communities.
Okay. Anyone else want to share?
Yeah, I don't know if anyone's seen the documentary Wait Superman? Education in America and how that's to be changed. I don't remember much about the documentary, but I don't know if they covered teacher salaries in public schools or private schools, but I'm sure they fall below $50,000 a year. And I don't know if you're a student or you're a teacher only getting paid that much, and then your students see a basketball player earning or a baseball player earning millions of dollars, maybe you have different incentives at school. I think that the government should there should be an incentive to just push the education requirements for public school teachers and increase their salaries and get better quality. I think that in South Korea, you require a master's degree to teach public school.
Okay. Anyone else?
A lot of your university faculty don't make that much money either.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And the adjunct faculty do not make a living wage. You can't be an adjunct professor.
Are those non-union?
Yeah, yeah. And, they make less than $4,000 to teach a course. So, and these are people that sometimes have master's and doctoral degrees, right? So it's an issue here right now, too.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, thank you for sharing. What's the next question? So if you look at the article, near the bottom, it talks about a crucible moment, which is a document released by the U.S. Education Department, which talks about that we are in a civic recession and ideas of how to get out of it. It's a very large document, but there's also smaller versions of it you can Google and look up. Very good read. It talks about 5 recommendations that we could do in order to get out of our civic recession. I would like to get some volunteers to help me read it. Yes. You read the first one?
Reclaim and reinvest in fundamental civic and democratic mission.
Okay. What do you think that means? No one's opinion is wrong. Just look at the sentence and just tell me what you think it means.
You know that No Child Left Behind Act, and how the government thought that was gonna make a change to education somehow. I feel like with this statement, I guess if they're trying to say we invest in something like that, but more stronger, that our education system will be a lot more stronger. That's what I get when I read that.
Okay. Anyone else? Agree, disagree? Want to add to it, maybe? Yes?
I think today a lot of time in education is spent talking about preparation for employment and skill building and job seeking, and how many percentage of graduates who are getting jobs out of graduation. A lot of focus has turned toward that, and so when I read that, I think about adjusting that focus, maybe not necessarily away from getting jobs, because employment is necessary for the very large majority of us. However, when I see that, I think about, can we have both? Can we have a philosophy that emphasizes democratic engagement and civic engagement while also building skills and talking about how to use that knowledge and that involvement in our communities to get jobs and to build the skills we need to be successful in employment as well.
Okay, thank you. Who wants to read the second one? Yes, please.
Enlarge the current national narrative that raises civic aims and civic literacy as educational priorities.
Do you want to share what you think that means, maybe?
Someone else do that.
Okay, that's awesome. Who wants to share what they think that means?
When I read that, I think of the tests that students have to take, like the FCAT, all those tests, and teachers try to force like these curriculums that you have to know by a certain time, or that you have to know by the end of like your semester, and then that's what primarily the focus has been. It's not, the focus has lost away from fundamentals and learning these things for your own education and knowledge, but it's just focused on learning these things for a test. And when you read that, it says to enlarge the current national narrative that erases civic aims and civic literacy as educational priorities. Like if we erase those things, like those mindsets of trying to force kids to learn something by end of a semester or end of a curriculum, maybe they will grasp what they learn and try to use it for everyday life, and so they may graduate high school and then go to college.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else agree, want to add on to it, maybe? Yes.
Yeah, I think actually what you were saying kind of ties back to what Rodney was just saying about the first one, is that there's a lot of either or thinking that's going on, that, okay, education, especially higher education, should only be about this and not the broader picture of civic literacy, when actually our history shows that higher education was founded in this country as a way to develop the democracy. So we kind of lost that connection a little bit, but a lot of it is coming from this very limited narrative that we have to just prepare for careers, and that's the only thing that's important. When really it doesn't have to be an either or discussion. Maybe it could be both. Why can't higher education support both of those aims instead of just choosing one over the other?
Thank you. And the third one, number 3.
Advanced contemporary framework for civic learning.
Do you want to share what you think that means?
I think that means we have to reevaluate how we're teaching civics, and let it be more engaging. So that we, instead of we're just reading about it, we're practicing and doing something about it. So change inside our current curriculum and utilizing history in a more active way will definitely engage our students for a better civic learning.
Thank you. The fourth one?
Capitalize upon interdependent responsibilities of K through 12.
Do you want to share what that means to you? What do you think?
Interdependent responsibilities, okay. So how to connect the levels of learning between grades, and to make it seem more useful to the student, and make it more for preparation for reality instead of just theory, instead of just book work and mindless, we gotta do this test, you know. We should try to make it more comfortable to lead up to the next level in the right way or in a better way.
Maybe more engaging, maybe, what are you trying to say? Cool. And the fifth one? The last one? Yes.
Expand the number of robust, generative, global, national, and global civic partnerships.
What does that mean to anyone who wants to share?
We should get Peace Corps into the schools to talk to the kids, or we should get Doctors Without Borders into the schools to talk, and all the other kinds of nonprofits or other organizations to get students to get involved. I think I have a personal example of this. There's a company called, it's a nonprofit called Soil, Sustainable Organic Integrated Livelihoods. They came to my high school my sophomore year, and they told us, in Haiti there are no toilets. We build toilets. Help us get money to build more toilets. And they explained to us how something so simple like toilets made such a big difference for the infrastructure of a developing country. And a lot of people were shocked. They're like, wow, so a country that's right practically at the shores of the United States doesn't have something so basic as toilets. We don't think about this as students. And this nonprofit came into our school and enlightened us on this fact. And I think that should be happening more often all over the country.
So more partnership with nonprofits. Yes.
I also think about, for number 5 and number 3, actually, I think like new ways of categorizing civic engagement and meeting people where they are. People are on their computers, they are on their phones, and there are a growing number of organizations that are taking ways to get involved to those places because that's where people are. So I think, being okay with meeting people where they are and kind of redefining some of the ways we think about civic engagement and placing things in places where people can access them if that's where they are, because maybe it looks like people aren't engaged because they're not physically going to places as much anymore. But if they are going there in other ways, how do we engage them where they are?
Okay. Awesome. Thank you for everyone for sharing. Now, looking at the 2 questions here, I want you to pair up with someone next to you. If you're far away from someone, or there's going to be 3 of you, like in that row, all 3 of you could just join together, 4 of you or 2 and 2, and just reflect on these 2 questions, which are, how are student clubs and organizations enabling student voice and action as they relate to these recommendations, the ones we just talked about above? And then think about it from the professional staff side of FIU, program and services, and how are they enabling student voice and action as they relate to these recommendations. So the students and what student orgs and clubs are doing, and then what are FIU's programs and services providing. I'll give everybody like 5 minutes to discuss. You have a question?
Are we going to be able to give your opinions on these matters?
Yeah, we're going to be able to discuss it. So we give everybody like 3 or 4 minutes to discuss real quick. Join in with a group. Don't be shy. We already did bingo. We're all best friends. Facebook each other and Instagram each other after.
That's just being basically within one organization. It's not being experimentation. We also have like services of kids that like come through that like
So you feel that as a student?
But you've heard of like the different sororities and fraternities and how they have their own feelings.
What is that? Where do you come from?
I don't have an idea. Just with that because I just got an email yesterday from Deborah. She's the editor of So Deborah O'Neill, and she reached out to some other saying, is it a so it sounds to me like you are familiar with some stories of student involvement. So maybe you could reach out to her. Oh yeah. And you can tell me.
What is it called?
Maybe she would want to do a story that that profile lots of students, like a number of students. Yeah, that I told her stories, but she wants sexy student stories. And that goes out, that goes
2 more minutes.
a lot of people, yeah. Yeah. So that would be so good. Civic stories of students. Like campus community, but they said, yeah. And you're storytelling. So it's like, what do you think about that? Just in the well, you were saying the Center for Leadership Service.
Exactly. That's exactly. And when people are secluded like that, it's like you can't get involved in like or hear about the programs and services that are associated with
So what do you do in the center? You're not in the center, no. Oh.
60 seconds. Just wrap up what you're saying.
Eric? Yes. I know, he's raising his tush all right now. Snowing a little bit last night. Reach out today every time.
Okay, let's bring it back. I love that everyone's talking and engaging. This is awesome. All right. So, for the first question, what are student clubs and organizations enabling? How are student clubs and organizations enabling student voice and action as they relate to these recommendations? What did you guys talk about in the groups? Not everyone has to share. We just get like one.
I
Yes?
studied at the engineering center, and we have a lot of clubs there, but we're all like isolated from most of all the other clubs. We do like our own little thing, but we have no idea what goes on here. So I wish maybe there was a better. I know we have like every club has like a CSO representative. Me, I guess, with other club representatives. But I don't think there's ever like interaction between the clubs or forcing. They're not forcing them. More events that are like co-sponsored.
Okay. So more core sponsorships? Anyone else? Other groups? What you guys discussed?
Just to piggyback off what he said, you know how we have all the sororities and fraternities and how they have their own philanthropies and stuff like that. I feel like those that are not in a sorority or a fraternity don't have to like be pushed to, promote a philanthropy. Therefore, they're fully like biased or don't know what to do or just, doing their own thing. And I feel like he said how the engineer campus is like they have their own little clique. It's like different cliques, and then they have their different focus on what they do when it comes to the community involvement. And it doesn't include like everybody,
Do you feel like our government's the same way, or the larger society has relating this back to the recommendations? How do you feel like connects?
With the government.
Or society, whatever, you know.
Yeah, society, yeah, because people once they form their cliques, even social when you're amongst your social friends and peers and stuff like that, you form social cliques, and it doesn't involve other people because there's so many people in the world today. Like you know, you can't involve everyone.
Okay, connect that to like philanthropy and stuff. Do you feel like each clique looks out for themselves and not each other groups? And you keep it within themselves? Like you're talking about like an engineering campus and other like fraternity and sororities. Does that make sense?
Wait,
Did I say that right?
say that again.
Connecting what he said with fraternities, what you said fraternity and sororities, and what he said about the engineering campuses. Like everyone just keeps to themselves. Do you feel like they all look out for each other, or they're just looking out for themselves?
I feel like they look out for themselves sometimes to make their name or like their organization sound superior or sound good. You know?
Okay. Everything that's a society, do you feel like there's a connection?
As far as society, I think so, yes.
So you're nodding your head back there too. Do you want to share?
I can compare this to lobbying or lobbyists.
Okay.
There's always a certain idea to project, and it's their idea, and it's what they want societies to, it's what they want. So we can compare the cliques to lobbyists in the government. That's what I was just thinking.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Now talking about FIU program and services, how are they enabling student voice and action? What do you talk about in your groups?
Isn't this one form of students having a voice? I haven't been to one of these in about a year and a half. I remember when it started, and yeah, it's a form of just students randomly showing up into a room and voicing their opinion.
Is it good? Was it worth it? Awesome. What other examples besides this workshop? Yes.
Like I was telling my partner, the emails that come from certain clubs or organizations or sometimes the president informing us about things that are going around campus, that's going on around campus as far as events to help other people. And to go back on what we were just talking about with the first question. I do feel like it's kind of yes and no. I do feel like certain organizations and clubs do, I won't say certain, some look out for themselves, and I feel like some look out for others as well. As far as breast cancer and HIV, I consider that an organization because it's an awareness campaign or awareness, and you have people and groups come together to support a cause. And you have some that who are supporting the cause are actually dealing with that cause. So I feel like when it comes to certain things like that, not actually FIU, but when it comes to certain things like that, you are looking out for someone else in a certain way. As far as the FIU programs though, the email informs us of what's going on. I never knew anything about a Tuesday roundtable. I did see it in my email before, and then I am here for a class, so my professor informed me about it, so now I'm here. So it gets me to tell someone else to, hey, come down to the Tuesday roundtable and come check it out, you know? So I feel like I was telling her as well, when you walk through DC, it's always a table up. I don't care what day it is or what time, or if it's not 3, it's going to be 1. And they're going to be trying to tell you about their organization in a way that makes you feel like, oh, so they support breast cancer, or oh, they give donations to Ethiopian kids in Ethiopia, or they're supporting HIV. And it is to make them look a certain kind of way, but my question is it sincere? And is it real, or are you just doing it because you want more people to come to your organization? So.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. Now, for the sake of time, we have to run to the last slide. Anyone who wants to read it really quickly?
I would.
Awesome.
OEC states 3 optimistic notes: increase of international interest in higher education. Students outside the U.S. are trying their best to get into U.S. higher education. Shining hope for communities. Group of university students has built an elementary school for girls in Kibera. Is that it?
Kibera, Kenya.
Crucible Moment, a national document that outlines how universities can reclaim their civic mission. The questions.
I can read it. So, based on everything we talked about today, what do you feel higher education can do that it's not already doing? Well, it says here, what else can higher education do to encourage civic learning and democratic engagement?
We actually came up with an idea, maybe it could be a club or some sort of organization here at FIU or at any university that actually like explains what's on a ballot. Because I don't know about any of you, but when I go vote, I feel like I need a lawyer with me to understand how to, like, and I know that you're supposed to research, but there's only so many things that you can research. You know, talking about how people don't have time, work, and school. Just like we need to get involved, I feel like there needs to be either the government or the schools need to facilitate voting and civic engagement for people. Like, I don't care how uneducated you are, you have the right to understand what's on a ballot.
Okay.
So,
Just to add on her point, if you go to your public library, in your elections, the Florida League of Women Voters has a little newspaper, and they outline everything on the ballot, non-biased.
voting for dummies.
Anyone else? What else higher ed can do?
I think something beautiful about FIU is that we do have a plethora of organizations that have the purpose of civic learning engagement. I think that the issue is that we have so many that it's hard to really get committed and really dig deep into one of them. And typically the customers or the students that are interested in these sort of organizations are going to be the ones that are interested in all of them. So something that's very interesting that I think works for an organization that I'm a part of is when these organizations start collaborating with each other. When you start bringing them together, then we have less of an issue of competition for having members for you, for getting your numbers up. But instead, you know, a lot of the members that are in mine, we share the members with like the International Student Club and stuff like that. And so when we have like a pool that is common amongst both organizations, we find that both of these clubs start growing in number and increasing in awareness.
Okay. Anyone else before I close? Yes.
Thank you for choosing this topic.
Oh.
I really like the way you ran this.
Thank you. Oh, I'm so blushing. Well, thank you. Thank you for opening, discussing, sharing. Hope you guys all learned something and learned from each other. Absolutely. Thank you for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Bring it back to you.
After